What's going on? YouTube, listen up, young elder gang. This is Dr. Charles P. Winston at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe and share this video. Fam, I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video you will find history definitions, scripture information, and best of all what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it. Today, be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. On September 1st, 1939, German forces stormed into Poland, unleashing blitzkrieg, lightning war on an unsuspecting nation. Tanks, planes and infantry smashed through Polish defences with terrifying speed. Hitler claimed it was a defensive move, but the world saw through the lie. The Polish army fought bravely, but was outmatched by Germany's modern military. This invasion was the breaking point after years of unchecked Nazi aggression in Europe. Hitler demanded Danzig and the Polish corridor. When Poland refused, he struck. On September 17th, the Soviet Union invaded from the east, sealing Poland's fate. The secret Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact between Hitler and Stalin divided Poland between them. By early October, Poland was crushed, its cities bombed and its people subjected to brutal occupation. Warsaw was devastated, and millions, especially Jews, faced unimaginable persecution. The invasion of Poland was the spark that ignited World War II. Diplomacy had failed. The world was plunged into darkness. The swift fall of Poland showed the terrifying power of modern warfare. The deadliest conflict in human history had begun. The attack on Poland forced Britain and France to act. Their policy of appeasement had failed. Hitler's ambitions were now undeniable. Both nations had pledged to defend Poland's independence. On September 3rd, 1939, after ignored ultimatums, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Chamberlain's sombre radio address marked the end of peace in Europe. France quickly followed, and the dominoes began to fall. Yet, as Poland was overrun, the Western Front remained eerily quiet. This period, called the Phony War, saw little fighting as Allied forces mobilized slowly. Britain sent troops to France, and the French manned the Maginot Line, but no major attack came. Their inaction allowed Hitler to finish his conquest of Poland and prepare for the next phase. The world braced for a wider conflict. The peace of the interwar years was shattered. The stage was set for a global war. The world would never be the same. To understand World War II, we must look back to the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. The treaty imposed harsh penalties on Germany, blame, reparations and territorial losses. Germany's economy collapsed under the weight of reparations, fueling resentment and hyperinflation. The treaty stripped Germany of colonies and land, leaving millions of ethnic Germans outside its borders. Military restrictions left Germany feeling vulnerable and humiliated. These terms bred anger and a desire for revenge. Politicians who promised to restore Germany's pride found eager supporters. Hitler and the Nazis exploited this resentment, vowing to tear up the treaty and reclaim lost glory. The Treaty of Versailles, meant to secure peace, instead sowed the seeds of another war. Its legacy was a Germany ready to follow a leader who promised strength. The world would pay the price for this failed peace. The years between the wars saw the rise of dangerous ideologies. In Italy, Mussolini's Fascism glorified the state and demanded conquest. In Germany, Nazism added toxic racism to fascist ideas, with Hitler promising Aryan supremacy and expansion. Hitler's regime used propaganda, terror and rearmament to build a totalitarian state. In Japan, militarists seized power, believing in Japanese superiority and a divine right to dominate Asia. Aggressive expansion became policy. Japan invaded Manchuria and China, committing atrocities like the Nanking Massacre. These regimes, Italy, Germany and Japan, formed the Axis powers, united by militarism and hatred of democracy. Their actions destabilized the world as democracies hesitated to respond. The alliance of fascist powers set the stage for global conflict. The world order was under threat from within and without. The march to war was unstoppable. The Great Depression of the 1930s plunged the world into economic chaos. Unemployment soared, banks failed, and millions lost hope in democracy. Extremist movements thrived in this climate of fear and desperation. In Germany, Hitler blamed the Treaty of Versailles and minorities for the crisis, promising jobs and national revival. Economic hardship made his message appealing, paving the way for Nazi power. Other nations turned inward, raising tariffs and fueling nationalism. Japan and Germany, desperate for resources, saw conquest as the only solution. The Depression weakened democracies and emboldened dictators. Economic collapse made war seem not just possible, but inevitable. After World War I, the League of Nations was created to keep peace, but it lacked real power. Key nations like the US never joined, and others joined late or reluctantly. The League failed its biggest tests. Japan invaded Manchuria, Italy attacked Ethiopia, and Hitler defied treaties. Each time the League issued protests but took little action. Aggressors learned they could act without consequence. The League's weakness encouraged further aggression. Its inability to enforce peace made war more likely, not less. The world's first attempt at global governance had failed. The stage was set for catastrophe. World War II was fought between the Axis, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the Allies, led by Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and later the United States. The Axis sought dominance in Europe, the Mediterranean, and Asia. The war's scope was global, with battles raging across continents and oceans. Germany's blitzkrieg conquered much of Western Europe. Britain stood alone during the Battle of Britain. In 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, and Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, bringing the US into the war. The Allies coordinated strategy through leaders like Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin. Turning points included Stalingrad and Midway, shifting momentum to the Allies. D-Day in 1944 opened a second front in Europe while the Soviets advanced from the east. The Holocaust's horrors were revealed as the Allies liberated camps. Germany surrendered in May 1945, Japan after atomic bombs in August. The world was forever changed. World War II's death toll reached up to 85 million, with civilians suffering most. The Holocaust claimed 6 million Jewish lives alongside millions of other victims. Cities like Warsaw, Dresden, and Hiroshima were reduced to rubble. The Soviet Union, China and Poland suffered staggering losses. Refugees wandered ruined landscapes, homeless and traumatized. The economic cost was immense. Entire nations lay in ruins. The psychological scars ran deep as survivors grappled with loss and atrocity. Never again became a global plea. The devastation demanded a new approach to peace and human rights. The world faced the challenge of rebuilding shattered societies. The war's legacy was a warning to future generations. The Second Italo-Ethiopian War was a brief colonial war that began in October 1935 and ended in May 1936. The war began with the invasion of the Ethiopian Empire, also known as Abyssinia, by the armed forces of the Kingdom of Italy, Regno d'Italia, which was launched from Italian Somaliland and Eritrea. The war resulted in the military occupation of Ethiopia and its annexation into the newly created colony of Italian East Africa, Africa Orientale Italiana. In addition, it exposed the weakness of the League of Nations as a force to preserve peace. Both Italy and Ethiopia were member nations, but the League did little when the former clearly violated Article 6 of the League's covenant. The United Kingdom and France supported imposing sanctions on Italy for the invasion, but the sanctions were not fully enforced and failed to end the Italian invasion. 34. Italy subsequently dropped its objections to Germany's goal of absorbing Austria. When civil war broke out in Spain, Hitler and Mussolini lent military support to the nationalist rebels, led by General Francisco Franco. Italy supported the nationalists to a greater extent than the Nazis. Mussolini sent more than 70,000 ground troops, 6,000 aviation personnel, and 720 aircraft to Spain. The Soviet Union supported the existing government of the Spanish Republic. More than 30,000 foreign volunteers, known as the International Brigades, also fought against the nationalists. Both Germany and the Soviet Union used this proxy war as an opportunity to test in combat their most advanced weapons and tactics. The nationalists won the civil war in April 1939. Franco, now dictator, remained officially neutral during World War II, but generally favoured the Axis. His greatest collaboration with Germany was the sending of volunteers to fight on the Eastern Front. In July 1937, Japan captured the former Chinese imperial capital of Peking after instigating the Marco Polo Bridge incident, which culminated in the Japanese campaign to invade all of China. The Soviets quickly signed a non-aggression pact with China to lend material support, effectively ending China's prior cooperation with Germany. From September to November, the Japanese attacked Taiyuan, engaged the Kuomintang army around Xingkou, and fought communist forces in Ping-Xinguan. Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek deployed his best army to defend Shanghai, but after 3 months of fighting, Shanghai fell. The Japanese continued to push Chinese forces back, capturing the capital Nanking in December 1937. After the fall of Nanking, tens or hundreds of thousands of Chinese civilians and disarmed combatants were murdered by the Japanese. In March 1938, nationalist Chinese forces won their first major victory at Taiyuan. But then the city of Suzhou was taken by the Japanese in May. In June 1938, Chinese forces stalled the Japanese advance by flooding the Yellow River. This maneuver bought time for the Chinese to prepare their defences at Wuhan, but the city was taken by October. 46 Japanese military victories did not bring about the collapse of Chinese resistance that Japan had hoped to achieve. Instead, the Chinese government relocated inland to Chongqing and continued the war. World War II reshaped the world. The United Nations was founded in 1945 to prevent future wars, with real power vested in its Security Council. The old European empires faded, replaced by a wave of decolonization in Africa and Asia. Two superpowers emerged, the United States and the Soviet Union, ushering in the Cold War. The world was divided by ideology, with nuclear weapons raising the stakes. The war spurred advances in technology, from computers to nuclear energy. The horrors of genocide led to a new focus on human rights. Women's roles changed and new international institutions were born. The seeds of the European Union were planted. Our modern world was forged in the fires of World War II.